podcast where we talk about everything and anything. So, with all that, I don't have much of an intro today. Usually I do, but today I don't. And I don't know why. Maybe I'm just tired. It's a long day. Who knows? But today I have a very special guest who needs no introductions. But I will let her take the floor on this one. So, how are you?
Wow, that was a great intro, actually. And I guess I do need an introduction. I don't think everybody knows about me, at least not, well, maybe in my country. So let me just introduce myself. I am Farida Orujova. I know that's like a weird name for some kind of audiences. I live in Azerbaijan, Baku. When I lived in the United States, this question actually came up very often, which was like, where is Azerbaijan? Is it in Africa? Is it in Indonesia? Wherever that is. Is it in Japan? Yeah, that was like the craziest question. But I always have to say, like, okay, we are former Soviet Union country, and also we are next to Russia. So we are like south in Russia and in the north of Iran, probably. So bordered with Turkey, near to Turkey. So that's where I am from. I was a flex student, exchange student in the United States for 1 year. And right now I live in my own country, Azerbaijan, Baku. And I'm an education specialist and education policymaker and also lecturer at the university. One more thing, that would be teacher of ESL.
Okay. Awesome. And for those who don't know, because there's gonna be people who are not aware, what does ESO mean?
Oh, ESL is basically English as a second language. So in our country, it is very popular to learn English, and also English streams are also one of the major streams in Azerbaijan. For example, we at schools we have English streams, Azerbaijani streams, and Russian streams. So these kids get to learn and study all the subjects in these three languages. So
Hmm.
ESL is very popular. So yeah, it's English as a second language. And by the way, I have started teaching English at the age of 16.
Oh
And
wow!
since then, yeah,
I
it's
didn't
been
notice that.
pretty much like 15 years.
That's awesome. So like that's oh my gosh, that's such a long time. Also, when you say 16 years, now I feel old now.
Me too. I don't know if people know about our background, how we know each other.
They probably don't. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I was like, to keep it very much straightforward. You went to the you were an exchange student the same time I was in school. Were you a grade above me? I believe.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
what
I
okay,
was
yeah.
senior. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and so it always feels weird because it was always like such a like a small town too because it's only like 3,000 people, and so I was always I was always curious. I'm like, why Bloomer of all places? And that's a question. Yeah, that's a question I have to ask you though, because I'm like, why Bloomer of all places? Like,
Okay. Well,
because do
that's
you
a
choose
great
those?
question.
Do you like get the choice for the where you go?
So I'm just going to clarify this right now. So when you are a Flex Future Leaders Exchange program, let's say finalist, so you don't get to choose anything. You don't get to choose the family you are going to stay in. You don't get to choose the school or the state. Nothing.
Oh
And
wow.
actually, one beautiful day they just call you and say that, you know what, you have been chosen by the family. So, and there are pretty much like maybe, so there are three, you will have like three or five siblings, or maybe you will be the only child. And
Hmm.
this is a place you are going in. And you know what? So, these flex, let's say, program. It's basically everywhere in former Soviet Union countries. So you
Oh
can
okay.
see this, people. Yeah. So this is basically about like former Soviet Union countries thing. So all the students they actually apply for this program in once they finish 11th grade in Azerbaijan or in other countries because we don't study for 12 years in high school. We only have 11 years. And then if so we are basically seniors in our schools and we graduate
Hmm.
and then we go to the United States. So we study for the 12th grade and we graduate one more time. So I basically graduate twice from high school.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was, yeah,
I did not.
I did.
That's so that's so different from like obviously like the United States school system of going through K through 12. Um, so like and I'm wondering too because so like for y'all over there, and you set up to like basically like 11th, right? 11th, it'd be like 11th grade kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and then you
yeah.
graduate. So then in that 12th one, do a lot of them go abroad then, or do they just choose like can they stay in uh in the same country then, and then just choose a different career path, or
Well, you know what? It's very different from the U.S. So our, let's say, I'm just going to talk about Azerbaijan and also like maybe former Soviet Union countries, because basically after like Soviet Union collapsed, people do see the same kind of mindset in the society, and achieving higher education and it's very important in our society and in all those countries, including Russia at the same time. So like you have to get to the university. Like you have to, when in the US we basically call it college. So, but it is not college here. Colleges are things like you drop out from the ninth grade, you graduate in the ninth grade, and then they give you to colleges where that's basically about like vocational training kind of thing. So you
okay,
don't actually get the diploma of higher education. But in once you finish 11th grade, mostly like our kids, they just from the first grade until the 11th grade, they
mm,
basically get ready to get to enter the university. So that's all about this. And there are certain subjects in our system, like for example, there are 4 or 5 groups. Like first group, it's all about physics, chemistry, Azerbaijani, you study this, and then second group is like geography, history, you study this. If you want business administration, you study this. And after 11th grade, most students they take like how the standardized tests
mm,
at the end of the 11th grade, and then if they pass it, they all apply to the university. Yeah, they
oh
do.
okay,
And yeah, and now, well, we have a lot of people who go abroad as well. For example, I also do the same kind of thing. For example, I do direct most of my students who want to study abroad to Lithuania, to Latvia, to Estonia. Estonia is one of the greatest countries
oh
to
really,
study. Actually, yeah, yeah. Since to Scandinavian countries, and it's very popular in Azerbaijan to go study in Turkey. Now Dubai has been a thing because they have opened a lot of yeah, they have opened like new universities. But for the US, our kids they usually want to apply for the scholarships, but scholarships are very limited in order to get into the university. So if you are self-funding, they go to United States. But if there is no self-funding, so it's kind of limited. But
that's
yeah.
understandable. I mean, and that's for a lot of them. That's probably like a very exciting time too in their lives to be like, oh my gosh, like there's a chance I could go somewhere abroad to go and just get a get a higher education. You mentioned Estonia,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah.
What
Estonia
like
is, yeah.
is it just a really pretty? I've never. I mean, I've only been to one actual place outside the country, and that was the UK, which was pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it. But because you've been, I mean, I say you've been pretty much all over, if I remember right.
I don't say I haven't been to Asia part or Eurasia, you know, the continent, but I would love to go to Japan. Maybe Japan is my favorite, one of the favorite countries because I love anime. That's why anime is like the main thing. But I've been to Ukraine, Germany, and then to the US, and then I went to there are also several countries that I don't really remember, but when I was a child, we lived all over Russia. Yes, like we just went from one part of Russia to another part of Russia. And then, yeah, there are countries that I have been to, but my most favorite countries in the world, that is Scandinavia, Scandinavian countries. For our people, probably the most important one is just to be in the United States because it's like you cross the ocean and that's like far away from like where we are. And so when you have been to United States, everybody thinks like, wow, you have been all over the world. That's also a thing. Yeah.
That is very true. I mean, I think for a lot of people, they don't travel abroad. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. The United States is huge, and that's why it makes sense to me, I guess, that like a lot of people don't, because traveling the United States is feels like you're almost traveling different countries in a way, for how different the
Yeah,
states
yeah.
can be. Depending on if you're going to the East Coast, you're going down south, you know, towards Texas or whatever. It's like almost a whole different
Yeah, yeah.
environment. Um, but yeah, I know quite a few people who have never traveled abroad, and I always kind of tell them to like at least try, do it once. Um,
Yeah. Well, I want my host family travel here right now because they have been planning on it for a long time. So when I was 16, I stayed with them.
yep.
Maybe you remember them, maybe not. But all the kids were actually in Bloomer High. So I really want them to travel here so I can host them at the same time. But we thought it would happen when I'm around 25, but it didn't happen. And then I applied for my master's degree. I went to Washington D.C. and I graduated, so they had to come over to just to attend
Mm.
my graduation. So that was it. And I was like, when are you guys coming? I already came twice. So they also haven't traveled yet, but I really want them to get out of the country. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know absolutely.
Okay.
It's an experience that I feel like it's an experience that like I said, it will kind of not just broaden your horizons, but it gives you a different sense of give a different sense of the world. You know, even the way that like I said, for myself, even just the way the UK was. Like the UK is not a whole lot different from like you know aspects of the US, but it was still a completely different feel, if that makes sense.
Well, all European countries are totally different. We have a lot of kids also studying in the UK, and UK also has like 12 grade system, just
Mm-hmm.
like Germany does. So our kids cannot get into the university right away. They have to study 12th grade. So they have like bunch of courses. And I would say all countries are totally different. For example, when it comes to Azerbaijan, we are considered to be Europe, but
Oh,
we are
okay.
not Europe, I guess. Yeah,
Hmm.
because we are Caucasian. We are considered to be the Caucasian country. It's like Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, and then
Mm-hmm.
Turkey, and then Russia. So when you go to each country, for example, we are like countries which are together, like Turkey, Azerbaijan, Georgia. We all people are very different. Culture is totally different. We do have like kind of same languages with Turkey. Language, like we do understand each other, like one another very well. But again, the vibe, that energy, society's mindset, architecture, totally different. So
See, I think
it
that's
is like, I don't know, it's magical.
it is. It is. 'Cause, I mean, I guess like I mentioned, you're like in a completely different world, and I think
Yeah.
it's super important. I mean, so I know you obviously you're a teacher. You're I don't know. I think
Yeah.
they just saw a teach instructor, and I've seen I've seen a couple of of your teaching live. I've been in a couple of your teaching lives. I don't say
Yeah.
anything. I don't say anything, but I've been
Really?
in a couple of. Yes, I have. I've seen them
Oh.
up, and I'm just like, oh, okay. So I'll jump into them every once in a while, and I won't say anything.
Oh
Um,
my
but
god.
but it is. It's so your students seem to just love it, and they do seem very excited. Like, I think one of them was it about? I think it was about empathy. I believe it was like learning like
Oh
empathy
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and how important. I mean, honestly, how important that is, especially in today's world. Um, and so when you're teaching, are you, I'm not a teacher myself, so I'm always curious. Like describe what would be like a normal day for you, like over like as like for your job.
Oh, okay. So let me start from here then. So I have started like I have started teaching at the university like an instructor for now. It's been like my third year, right after I did my master's degree. Before that, I would only work with K 12, yeah, as you say, but it is K 11 for us, like 11th grade, only high school students. So when it comes to, so basically I do work with both of them right now, but for high school students, I only teach English as a second language, but with integration. So other subjects, other topics integrated. It's not like only grammar or listening or, like learning English. It's basically like taken from all subject matters and just integrated.
Hmm.
And for university, so you have seen university life. So that was like I was at the university. So let me start with what I teach at the university. So I do teach several courses. So first one would be teacher leadership. So that's like education faculty. I
Okay.
teach to one group teacher leadership course, and one group I teach classroom management. The other group there is like CAS. That's something related to IB, so that's like a creative course. And also this year I don't teach that one anymore. And also I have like 3 4 groups of organizational behavior, so it's like OB. So we started having fun when I started teaching OB, organizational behavior. That
Okay.
was I think, yeah, I think you have seen those videos, and also you have seen my lives from OB group, because that was one of my very active groups out there.
Yes.
So what do I do? So lessons you basically start at 9 o'clock, or they usually start at different, like times, and they usually last for 3 hours, and they are not always very interesting. Trust.
I must be catching
Some
the lucky ones then. 'Cause,
no, no, no. Actually, yeah, I am usually interested, but as for students, they are usually tired because there are sometimes like 40, 50 students in one class,
oh my
and sometimes they
gosh.
are tired. Yeah, 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 yeah. There are very big groups at the same time, and they are basically usually tired, sometimes not. But again, right now I work with 2 generations, Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Gen Alphas are still in high school. Gen Zs, they are all at the university. And I can see that big difference between them. And also, it has given me a lot of, let's say, insights teaching at the university. It actually brought me back to my bachelor, like years when I was doing my bachelor's degree at the university. And I can see, sometimes I can see that, well, I have built a great empathy, I can say. I don't know if my students would agree with me, but I feel like we have great empathy towards each other. At least I do have towards them, because I can see that sometimes I can see that hopelessness. Sometimes I can see them really hopeful. Sometimes I can see them being really excited. So they do have their ups and downs. They do have their, like, not all of them are the same. All of them are different, and I'm trying to give each one of them like the same attention. Uh, I try to do that, but again, they are like 20, 21, 22, 22 years old. So mostly I try to how to say, mostly I try to show them that they are valuable in this life, and each one of them is very valuable to me. And if they are at the university right now, there is a reason for that, because we can see a lot of hopeless kids like, why am I even here, why do I need it? So mostly our lectures, or my lectures, or my lessons, they are around the subjects or whatever I am teaching, lecturing for like probably 30 minutes, and then we
Mhm.
just jump into some life things. So they usually ask for some recommendations, what they can do, and I try to motivate them. They call me Simon Sinek sometimes. I am like a great fan of Simon. They're like, okay, you are the Azerbaijani version of Simon Sinek. And I'm like, oh, really? Because I try to motivate them all the time. Most of the time, we usually leave whatever I'm teaching, and I'm just trying to like, okay, so what's going on today? If they are feeling okay, so how can I help them? So I'm just trying to be helpful. It's really hard. I can see that those hardships they are going through
Oh,
life.
absolutely. I mean, that age once you go from to your that early 20s age is tough because it feels like you have the world of options, and at the same time you feel like you have no option at all. And so like there's so much in that age group that even myself at that age, it was like, man, do I go to school? Do I go get a job right away? Like I gotta find places to live. I gotta, and it feels like it all comes at you at once. So I don't
That's
blame them for
totally right.
feeling overwhelmed. You know,
Well,
and
they usually do that actually. For example, I say, well, when they ask my age and when I say like I'm over 30 and they were like, "Oh my God, how do you feel?" I'm like, "I feel better than you because my 20s were like messy. I was all over the place. I worked, I did everything. Like I was like a fully functioning person, right? So I was like,
Mhm.
okay, working, studying at the same time, taking care of the family, taking care of my brothers, stuff like this. However, so my mental health was all over the place, all over the place. So that's why I did have some, like, I don't know, EDs, and also at the same time I was struggling with myself. But right after, like, for example, when I hit my 27, 28, I don't know, something came up to me. So and I was like, I just started feeling a little bit calmer. Yeah, I was again, like, I was struggling with my mental health issues. That wasn't like it wasn't, they didn't just like stop
Right.
precisely, but it was a lot much easier once I hit 30. And there is one more thing, I just want to mention it today. Like when I woke up in the morning, I looked at Instagram. So there was like this news, a piece of news that hit me like right away, which made me feel really, really bad, because it's not only about our society, but I saw like this 13-year-old girl, for example. We do have like these child marriages kind of thing, like all over the country. We do. But not, it's not very well spread, because but sometimes we do hear the, like, it's usually in the media, like mainstream media. So
Right.
they don't usually hit the mainstream media, but when they do, I feel really, really bad. And it also, like, for the society, yeah, it's a very bad thing. So today it hit me, and I remembered myself, like, before I hit 30, there is like a very big pressure on girls getting married. Like, get married.
Okay.
Like before 30, you have to get married. You have
Right.
to have all this figured out. And right now I see that thing on my students, especially girls. So in education sector, we have a lot of girls right now. Like teacher leadership, 26, all of them are girls. 30, all of them are girls. So they study this teacher leadership, and they are going to be teachers in the future. So they do have these kind of things at the same time. So when they ask me, how are you feeling? I'm like, you know what? When you hit 30, it's like weight, just, somebody just like comes and takes that weight off your shoulders. So if you are strong, just be strong. Yeah.
No, and that's understandable because yeah, it's like even I know there's a lot of I don't societal pressure it does seem like when it comes to women and girls. And I've heard
Yeah.
that from other countries where it's like if you're not married by a certain time, even though marriage isn't the be all end all, I think that's something that is needs to change. I do believe that needs to change. Is that feeling that you have to be, because I feel like it's more of an archaic, very archaic and a very outdated mindset. To feel like you have to be with someone at a certain time, but I feel like it's something that is still even over in the states, while not maybe not marriage, but the fact that you're 20 something and you don't have someone yet. Oh, you're 30 and you don't have someone yet. There's this weird pressure, and it always seems really odd because it's not, like I said, it's not the be all end all of your life. You know, there's so much
Totally.
more
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
So, for example, for the person who has, like, maybe I can say like weak psyche, I used to have like weak psyche. So I'm not like a very, let's say, I don't know, can I call myself like overly sensitive? I'm a very sensitive person. So going through that phase, it broke my soul, kind of. So that's why I had all these mental health issues also, because I could feel the pressure like from everyone at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
from the family. But I'm really grateful for my family. My mom, she saw how like I was just losing myself at one point at the age of 26 or 27. And then she just stepped in and she was like, okay, you know what? You don't owe anything to anyone. Just sit back, relax, just, no pressure, because you are the most valuable thing in my life. I don't care what other people say. So I was a lucky one. I In my opinion. So
Mm-hmm.
before the society or the pressure, like broke me down. So I had my mom, so she kind of, tried to. But I see so many girls that they do struggle with this kind of issue. Once they hit like 21, 22, that pressure just starts like, okay, so you finished the university, now when is the marriage? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
you don't, or like, okay, you did your bachelor's degree, okay, do your master's degree. So uh, nobody tries to relax and just like, take a step back and then maybe reflect a little bit. Maybe, okay, if you did your bachelor's degree this way and you don't like it, maybe you can change it. No, they force themselves like, okay, let me do this, let me just not think, not reflect, but just always be on the go and have that recognition of, being all the time like busy. I don't know why it is so popular, but I guess, yeah, I don't know. I
And
think I just jumped from one topic to another.
and I think that's that's something interesting too because we even over in the states we do have this like this I don't even call it hustle culture. I feel like I would call it like accomplishment culture. Like you have to
Yeah.
be doing something. If you're not getting your degree, then you have to be working. If you're not working, then you need to be up. You need to go up in in whatever job you're is to become the top dog at your job, so you can make the most money. If you're not making that money, you need to make even more money. There's no sense of sitting back and relaxing because there is a big societal pressure on people to become successful in life. And I think that's one of the reasons why there is so much when it comes to mental health and damaging effects when it comes to mental health, because it's just it's corrupting, especially at such a young ages. Like you mentioned, telling someone who's I don't let's say someone who's in their 15, 16 years old, which is some of the most prime parts of their life, that if you need to get this degree so you can go get married, so you can go do whatever. And it's like, but what if I don't want that? What if I don't want that? What if I want to do something else? And I think, one of the things that will help so many people, especially like the girls that you were mentioning before, is to take that away and recognize that your life is on your time, not what someone
That
else
is,
has
yeah,
sent
yeah.
for you.
That is true. I would say like Gen Alpha, for example, I do have a brother who is 14 years old. So he is asking the questions which I have never asked my mom. He's like right now he's saying, "Oh, we are telling him, okay, so once you finish, so we do in our country it's like this. If you finish school, you have boys have to do military service. So if you are not at the universities, they have to go to military service and do the military service, you know. So that's not an issue actually, but we are like the country which is in constant war. So we have like very slight war going on right now. So that's why most families they are afraid of sending their like 15-year-old, 16-year-old kids to the army. So that's why people usually like my kids usually like, okay, let me just go to the university, so maybe I just grow up and go to do the military service. So my brother, he is like, okay, so we are trying to just we are pretty much begging him to study so he can go to the university, and he's like, okay, is it going to bring me a lot of money? And I'm like, okay, so we just want you to be safe and to have your diploma degree so in the future you can be secure. And he's like, You don't even need a diploma, or you don't even need university degree to be successful. There are so many platforms. They're very aware. For my brother, he's very aware. He's like, I'm studying because you want me to. But once I enter the university, I'm not gonna do whatever you are asking me to. So Gen Alpha, they are very much aware of their possibilities and opportunities because of the like availability of internet and all these platforms and everything going on social media, and having opportunities to have mentors, coaches, everyone. But like the generation before, like Gen Z or millennials like us, we didn't have that much access from a very young age. So that's why we were like, we did whatever we were told to mostly. But now they are my brother is very well aware of his mental health, and he's very well aware of social emotional, like learning and social emotional state of his. So that's why it's a bit, I guess, easier for him to navigate. But I don't know, like there are so many things,
No, and I think that's
controversial things happening.
oh, absolutely, and I think that's huge though. The fact that you mentioned the Gen Alpha group is aware of the I would say flaws and inadequacies of things that we just kind of willfully trusted, and I find that I find that fascinating because I know over here, there's a lot of people who are older who are just you guys don't know anything, but they're so misaligned. So when they see people who are younger who are asking questions and in a way like rebelling against a system that was very much you just do this because I call it like a kind of like a because I said so kind of why is this a thing because I said so and eventually um that Gen Alpha is going to be the one to really make a change in the world.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think
they will definitely.
and I think that they're more it seems like they are more focused on things like mental health. They're more focused. They're more aware of. They're more socially conscious of things that they say and things that they things that they do and how it affects others. And I find that actually quite amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So because of their like they do have access to social media. That is the thing. That's what I told you because they see all these YouTubers going around and talking about this. So that's why I wouldn't say like all of them are aware. There are a lot of Gen Alphas who, because of their family backgrounds, like the family setting. So family is a very big thing and it plays a very big role in the, let's say, bringing up, this whoever. So if you have a child in the family, you can see what is this kid's mom's or dad's, let's say, mindset is. So
Mm-hmm.
that's like a, so we do have a lot of, for example, that's right now, that's what I do. I am like advocating mental health,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not a very common thing in Azerbaijan, like mental health. Yeah, we do have some people talking about it, but in the society, as a society, we are not like a whole society. I don't remember if the US was like this, but here, like we do have kind of, as we have Russian streams, Azerbaijani stream, and also English stream. And we know that language does affect the mindset of people a lot. So what language you are studying, what literature you are reading, and what kind of social media you have access to, they do have this different kind of mindset. So people, for example, people who study in Russian stream or kids who study in Russian stream, they are more aware of social and emotional stuff because they also do have access to social media in Russia at the same time. And kids who study in mainstream in English, so they do have access to social media in English. So that's why they are also aware. But kids who study in Azerbaijani, we don't have a lot of people in Azerbaijan or YouTubers or social media people who would advocate it. So I guess I am going to be the pioneer. I will be the one who started.
No, and that you know what, but we need it. They need it.
Yeah, yeah.
They need that push. They need that the best word to use is that encouragement. That guidance because they are going to be that next generation who's going to make a change when the people before them don't. And I think that's it's epic in a way that you like I said, you're the one who's also guiding them into this next stage in life. Because I believe mental health is something that needs to be it's something that needs to not only be talked about, but it needs to be encouraged. I see that I worked with boys for a little while in like a facility for troubled boys and stuff.
Oh,
And the one thing that I saw in there a lot was a lot of boys had a very backwards mindset actually when it came to how relationships are, their own mental health, when it came to how women are, because their mindset was in some cases still kind of what word to use, kind of barbaric in a way. It was very much like an entitlement kind of generation, a very you owe me kind of feeling, and as our landscape in society changes, those kind of dynamics have to change. You have to adapt to it, or you're just going to be left behind. And over here, especially over in the states, a lot of boys are just being left behind because they're not they're not adapting to a time that is, in my view, already past. We
oh,
have
can I ask you a question? Like, when you said these boys, can you tell me like what age range or what age group
I worked
they
with
are from?
boys from the ages of 12 to 17. You know,
Oh,
um,
okay.
so a lot of that teenage age, which and it's a hard age anyways. Being a teenager sucks. That's the one thing that's something they don't tell you until you experience it. Being a teenager
True.
is just sucks. Um, but a lot of them still have mindset of these traditional role mindsets, and mindsets of like, well, a man needs to do this, and if he doesn't do this and this, he's not technically considered a man. But at the same time, a lot of the stuff that they're doing is incredibly destructive. you know I'm dealing with boys who have been, they're in gangs. I've been dealing with boys who are in and out of jail. And I had at the time, even when I was working there, I had no problem saying those, like, because I would tell them, like, a woman who respects herself would want nothing to do with a bum like you. I'm like, and I'm like, it's the saying that I'm trying to say this the nicest way possible. You know, I'm like, you're in, at your age right now, I'm like, you're constantly in and out of detention centers. That's not cool. It's cool, sure. It's cool when you're 13 and you don't know any better. But it's not cool when you're in your 20s and 30s. Okay? It just means you can't, you take no accountability, you know? And I would talk about him, and of course, that at that age they're gonna be like, well, it's not really, it's not like that, but it is. And the truth is that more people need to have these discussions, especially with, like I said, with the societal pressure gets put on girls to not only have to be multifaceted. I mean, that's the one thing I've noticed too, is the with girls, they have to be multifaceted. You have to make sure you have, if you said go to university, you have to make sure you go to school because you want to get smart. But at the same time, you also want to make money, but you don't want to make too much because then it's going to be harder to, have to get married and all the other kind of stuff. But it's like such a weird, odd, limiting kind of role that they are in, and it does not, when you sit and think about it for longer than 5 seconds, at least to me, what it comes down to is I want you to be just smart enough so that you're not stupid. Make enough money, but not enough that will hurt whoever you're with's feelings that they're not making enough, despite the fact that you guys could be in two completely different fields that have nothing to do with each other. You know, I need you to look a certain way, but I also don't want you to look too good because that could, then you could find someone else. Like it's such a weird box that gets put on people, and I'm glad to see that, like, younger generations are becoming more aware of, honestly, when you think about it, kind of how stupid and ridiculous it is.
It is. It is. I totally agree with you. I totally do. So, whatever you have talked right now, I went through that. Like went through that hell kind of situation. So, the same thing, for example, when I told you, like, when once I hit like 23, these things started happening. Like, okay, so and we do have kind of arranged marriage kind of thing. If you don't find a guy, so they would probably like try to set you up with someone. And that's what happened to me, actually, probably like twice or three times. And when I didn't get, I wouldn't say I would get along. I would just go on a date, probably, like, and I meet that person, and that was it. I would, for the okay, from the first date, that was like, obvious that we were not going to be together, or I don't. It's not only me, but I wasn't comfortable next to that person because of that. It's not even about like intelligence, it's more about emotional intelligence.
Hmm.
I guess I was too sensitive and I was too self-aware for that person. I was too, I'm not trying to diminish anyone, just cold shallow. However, I was like, okay, so for example, when you ask the person, for example, what is the most valuable thing? What are, okay, I usually start like this: what is your vision about your life? What are your future goals? And most of them would like tell me, oh, just have a family, just have a kid, and then the car, and then the house, that's it. And I was like, okay, what else? So do we have any other goals? Because maybe something related to society, or something related to, like bigger goals, like growing, or as a person, growing as a person, growing whoever, as whoever you are, or maybe making some plans, nothing like that. So that was a problem. I don't know. So maybe I was just very detailed about my life, and in a certain way how I felt, because
Hmm.
feeling something and feeling comfortable, and also feeling in the state of like enlightenment, maybe I usually like feeling that way. That's very important for me. So when I went home, and when people started asking me, the people who set us up, they were like, okay, so what do you think? And I was like, we are totally different. He doesn't even know about Russian literature, and I would like, he doesn't even know about Russian literature. He doesn't know who Yesenin is. He has no idea who Simon Sinek is. He has no idea who John Dewey is. We don't listen to same kind of music. And they were like, you know what? Families are usually okay. Does he have a car? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, yes. Does he have a house? And I'm like, yeah. Does he earn money? And I was like, yes. And it's like, what else do you need? That is what our main man made for.
And that
That
is that's so, oh my gosh. And then maybe just cuz I'm a man, it's actually, it's interesting hearing that, because it sounds like for the people you would talk to, it sounds like they, as long as you do the bare minimum stuff. I've said the bare minimum type of adulting is like, at least, having, paying your bills, having some place to live, having some mode of transportation. It doesn't necessarily be like have a vehicle, but at least have some way that you know how to get around. Um, and if you don't have those, to me, that's like the basic form of adulting. So the fact that they're just like, oh, as long as he's just basically being an adult, you're good enough. And it's, I'm glad that you kept those, but you kept your standards up. Like, you kept your standards of what you wanted, and that's huge. Like, that's absolutely huge. Um, because I've over here in the states, especially, there's a lot of talk when it comes to, gender roles. We talked about, there's a divide between men versus women, and I've learned over my, my years, that a lot of it comes down to understanding. You know, I never say compromise, and the reason why I don't say compromise is because a lot of times that compromise is not a compromise. To me, it is it's basically a way of saying, like, I'll not be rude to you as long as you basically give up on your goals and dreams and all the other kind of stuff to make me happy. That's not
totally.
okay. That's not compromise.
That is not. That is not okay. And also, look, the same thing, whatever is going in the US. So let me tell you something. So when I came to the United States, I stayed with my host family. So that was a very normal thing for my host dad cook in the evening. Like for dinner, he would cook the dinner.
Hmm.
And when I came back to Azerbaijan, and I was like, they were just asking me questions, like some basic questions, like, oh, how was it? Is America good or Azerbaijan? I was like, okay, what kind of question is that? So, and I was talking to them, and I showed them the pictures where my dad, host dad, and me made like this Azerbaijani national food. There's like sweet baklava, and they were like,
Oh,
oh my
baklava is so
god.
good.
Oh yeah, no, no, no. That's you. Whatever you ate, that is Turkish baklava. We have our own
Okay,
baklava.
I'm gonna need them to try your guys your baklava.
Yeah, yeah. It is really sweet. And right now, it is Novruz in Azerbaijan. It's like Novruz holiday. Novruz is something we celebrate spring right now, and it's called Novruz. So you
Okay.
can see this, yeah, you can see this holiday in Iran, in Turkey, and in Azerbaijan. So those three countries, they do celebrate, and I believe Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan as well. So that is like the national pastry for right now. You can if you go to any house right now, you will see like a big bowl of baklava. So everywhere, and they will make you eat that as
I'm
well.
gonna have to I'm gonna
They're
have to
like,
try it now because now I feel like I'm obligated to try it. Like,
oh, I wish I could send it to you, but it's going to get spoiled
I
on the
mean,
way
that's
to the
fair.
US.
That's fair. So I'm interested. Like, how did they react then when they found out that that you that your host dad was making food during the dinner times and stuff?
Oh, that was really weird for many people. That was like really weird. They were like, "Oh, wasn't your mom at home?" And I was like, "She was working. She had to work since like 9 o'clock. Since she would like take us to school at 6 when there was no school bus, and then she
Hmm.
would also, or whenever we left, she also left the house. So she had to take care of like the breakfast, and then made lunch. It was obviously at school, and then when we had to come back, she wasn't at home. When we came back, she wasn't at home either, but my dad was at home. So he was like, okay, let me just take the responsibility and cook for the family. So that wasn't a very big deal, but for some people, not all of them, it was a big deal, because that is women's job, to cook, to
Yeah.
clean, and to take care of the kids, everything. And I also had one guy who they set me up. His first question when we got together was like, "Can you make bozbash?" And I went, "Well, you don't know bozbash. What bozbash?"
Bulls Blush.
Okay, I think, okay, so you don't know what bozbash is. So
No, I
bozbash
don't.
is okay. So that is, so despite the fact that Azerbaijan is a very very small country, we have people like each part, like north, south, east, and west, they all have their national dishes.
Okay.
Okay, okay, so you got it, yeah.
Yeah.
So this bozbash saying is very very popular in the west part, and that guy was from the west part of the country, and his first question on the date was like, "Can you make bozbash?" And I'm like, "No, I'm a vegetarian. That's made with meat." How? And he was like, and he was 37 years old when I was 25 or something. Yeah, yeah. And he was like, "Okay, I think you are too independent for me." And I was like, "What?"
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. What? I think you are too independent for. Oh. Oh.
Being too independent is very bad for the women. Being too independent, like, it's really really really, well, we do have this stigma kind of thing. If the woman is too independent, if she can take care of herself, can take care of her family, and then like buys the house, everything around it, so that's like, you are too independent, and maybe you have some like kind of dark things going on in your life. And I'm like, what kind of
My question is
crazy
like, what the
mindset?
fuck does that mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like I see. And that's so interesting here because over in the states, one of the quote unquote knocks on women, right, is that they're strong and independent women. Which when you break it down, that's not a bad thing, right? It's almost like in a way, it's like the trying to take the term strong and independent and use it into a negative connotation, which doesn't make any sense. At least not to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm not that bright, but like I'm not getting the. I was like not getting the wisdom that these. And I'm not gonna lie to you, they're kind of losers. Like I mean, you said at 37, you should be able to make your own food. Because there's always that stigma of women need to be able to cook and clean and do blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like when I hear that, I just assume that your house is just a dirty rat's nest and there's just food all over the
True.
place. Like I was like, if you can, like because those are basic essentials. And I think one of the things that is interesting because I have had like my journey when it came to dealing like myself, my own mental health, and my own insecurities. And I started slipping down some pipelines. I mean, over here, be considered red pill pipelines and stuff that I wasn't really a fan of, and I pulled myself out of those. And a lot of times when I'm in TikTok, especially on TikTok and stuff, I will sit into lives that are considered more feminist lives on purpose to get a better understanding of that mindset and what that means. You know, because I think that like the stuff that like what you're saying, right? Um, when you break it down, it doesn't actually make sense. Like you think you'd want someone who can show that they can stand on their own 2 feet. You can want someone that can show that they have goals and aspirations. But part of that lack of emotional intelligence is be able to understand yourself, and that doesn't happen. Um, and that's where it feels like there's a big problem. There's a big divide there. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah. So I would say, and then so first when you see those kind of people, it's when you are like 20, 24, 25, 26, for example, that has a very toxic impact on your life, because I remember me like thinking like, what's wrong with me? I was always questioning like, okay, so is this is this me? Is there something wrong with me? What is going on? Like, is everyone correct? But is it just like me feeling weird? Maybe I should go and see the psychiatrist. Maybe I should go see the psychologist. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. And then, yeah, because right now I do realize how emotionally not intelligent those people were. Like they had no idea who they were. And it was really, like they were too weak just to get to that point. They were just too lazy, just to dig maybe like something, or just to. So these people, I usually call these people not curious about life. So they are just like robots. So they come into this life and they live. They just breathe. It's breathe like living and existing. They are totally different things.
Oh
And
yeah.
some people are here to exist. So I just, like, okay, so I'm just going to accept that most people, not most, but some people are here to exist. But for some people, there are people who want to live and just understand, be aware of whatever they are doing and about life, and just see that, okay, so we do have limited time on this earth, and why not be happy? Why not understand each other? Why not have this empathy, or like experience together everything beautiful physically and emotionally? So maybe it's so I can we can I cannot blame everyone. Actually, I cannot say like, okay, so if you haven't done it, that's your fault. Maybe in my childhood there was something clicked, or
Hmm.
maybe it was my mom who was too. I usually pretty much I usually link it to my mom's emotions, because she was a very emotional person when we grew up, and also she has been through a lot of things. So as kids we just experienced every phase of her life while she was going through, and she also gave a lot of attention to the emotions at the same time. But for some people it's not like this, and that's what I'm trying to explain others. I'm like, okay, so physical stuff, or like having this car, anything, I can do it myself. I just want someone who can make me, who can understand me, at least in an emotional level. So if you don't
Mhm.
understand the person in emotional level, and if you don't have the vision towards future, the same vision towards future, I don't see any kind of alignment and getting together. I don't see the point in order, in terms of getting together, like just for the sake of the child, just for the sake of the, like you are not alone kind of a
Yeah,
mold
yeah,
saying. Yeah, see, I I don't know.
yeah,
So that
and
is kind
a
of,
lot of people do that. A lot of people do that. The fear of being alone, especially when you have and that's where it leads to problems, is because, like you mentioned, staying for the child. I'm not for that, but I don't also have a kid, so I can't say a for or against. But like staying because you're alone, that is, to me, that is a societal pressure that we put on people because we put an emphasis on being in a relationship over your own happiness. Um, and like you mentioned, like there's a term we use when it's a gamer term, and it's called NPCs, non-playable
yeah, I
characters.
know, I know,
The
I
non,
know.
yeah, and that's what a lot of people are. The one that you mentioned, it was just NPCs, or I put like they're running on autopilot. They don't have any kind of introspective. They take everything at a surface level, and so when you start wanting to, like, hey, I want something deeper, it requires a level of vulnerability that maybe you're not as deep of a person as you thought you were, and instead of doing that, it's easier just to project. I was actually just talking with someone else about that when that person basically broke up with their significant other, and um, I was just, I was trying to mention, like, you guys are not on the same level. You know, when getting called out, the first thing this other person does, is he projects on you. And that, as soon as I see that, that's it. I'm not dealing with someone who constantly projects. That's a waste of time.
Yeah, it
And I
is,
think,
it is.
yeah, and that's where it happens way too often that people don't, what's the word? I'm looking for a term, but like people don't self reflect, and if you don't self reflect, you are just going to repeat the same behaviors. And that's why I mentioned over here when they talk about dipping into like things like red pill spaces and stuff like that happen. I don't know if that happens over there as much, but over here it happens, especially with with the grown, especially when it comes to grown men. Because I always say I'm a lot harder on men because us as men, a lot of times it feels like you're mad. They get mad at women for going and becoming successful and wanting to do stuff with themselves while they're not doing anything. And you can't get mad at someone. I use it in terms for me. I love football over here, right? And it's like a person who watches a quarterback over here, and the guy sitting on the couch being like, well, I mean, if he would just do blah blah blah, this would be a lot easier. Well, yeah, it's easier when you're
Yeah,
sitting on the couch not worrying about it. But you can't get you also don't have a right to get upset when someone else decides to do something different with their life.
that is
And
total. And also, you don't have the right to judge anyone. That's what I'm trying to explain right now. For example, right now I'm 33, and again, like now again, that pressure has started in terms of having a kid. Like, oh my
mm,
god, so I think you should be having a kid. I think, okay, so do you think about having a kid? And I'm like, um I have no idea if I want to do it or not. And when people keep asking the questions, and I'm like, okay, you are not walking my shoes right now. So as a girl, as a woman, I'm working in two places, building something and having like, like the paying for my mortgage and then doing that thing, this thing. And they were like, okay, aren't there any boys around? I'm like, I have no time just to go and date. For now, I cannot. If you would like to take a little bit of weight off my shoulders, come and pay for my mortgage so I can go on dates. Would you like to do that? So that would be that would be so. No, it's like what drives me crazy. People are, well, not always. It's like they care for me more than I care for myself. It's like you cannot do that. You cannot love me as much as I love myself, right? So you don't know what is good for me. Why do you care? And I am the person who has never given any advice to other people in terms of getting married or about their personal stuff, personal issues. And when I hear them addressing me, like, oh, and then maybe sometimes, so it's a thing in Azerbaijan, calling your mom. They call your mom. So these relatives, they call your mom and they're like, okay, that's very funny. So they call your mom and they're like, you know what? What is she thinking? Don't you think it's time for her? And my mom used to get
Oh,
so mad, and she doesn't care right now, but she used to get so mad. She was like, okay, they're calling me again. Can you just, you know, just
like
go and get married?
it's like it's like the world would be a lot better if y'all just mind your own business. Like, cause
That's true.
it has nothing to. Yeah, that's so. Oh my god, that would actually gets under my skin. Like, see, and that's what's so that's so crazy to me because like and I maybe because like I said, as a man, I don't have that kind of pressure on me. I don't have the pressure to go have to have a kid. Sure, like my mom, be like, "Oh, when you gonna have children?" I don't know. Whenever like I could start using biological terms, like but it's as a man, I have certain pressures, but I don't have pressure like that. You know,
No, 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 no.
and so I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
this what happens is this life that people live is they spend like the first 20, 30 years of their life rushing, rushing to do this, rushing to do this, rushing to do this, rushing to do this. And then by the time they're in their 40s and 50s, they're just like, I'm tired. I don't want to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
this
yeah.
anymore. And so, even at, like I said, I'm 33 as well. And it just, I'm at a point where I'm like, fuck it. Like, like the best thing I think I've ever said is I, I, I don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
If someone's like, "Oh, you need to go find someone. You need to go do this. You got to go do this." I don't care. I will go and do it on my own time, not anybody else's. Um, you know,
That is also, so these kind of issues are too
so
intricate, I would say. Yeah,
it's the
too
societal pressure of
intricate.
women by certain ages to already be established in more of a selfish feeling of society, but not the individual. Men, sorry, my friend put up both from up here. Men don't have as much societal pressure, but women have it more because of their biogenetic need
Yeah,
versus what they actually need, especially at the an age of reproduction.
yeah, yeah,
Which is
yeah. Biological clock. They usually send us like, they usually like, okay, so biological clock, it's ticking, so let's see. But I'm really happy that there are a lot of people also advocating, like different kind of lifestyles. So there are so many people living different kind of lifestyles, and at the same time, for example, child free is a thing right now.
Mhm.
And when people start judging them, and I'm like, why do you judge them? Do you know the his story? So their story, now I say, if you don't know the background story, just shut up. Like, just don't talk about it. Yeah, because nobody knows what I have gone through my life, and they always see everyone the same. They don't
Yeah.
understand that yeah, nothing, like they have no idea what kind of, for example, nobody knew I grew up without a dad who had no support in our family, and I have never seen a dad support, for example. So if I'm standing on my feet right now, it's because, well, it's like, I don't know, Snoop Dogg says thanks me for doing that, for doing this. So that's like a meme right now. It's because of my mom, who was very sick, like when we were a kid, but she still tried. And also, yeah, me just trying, just getting everything, like trying to get my life together at
Hmm.
one point, and just, trying to stand on my feet. I didn't want to rely on anyone in this life. I didn't, because when I was a kid, I've seen too much of, let's say, drama and tragedy, everything. So when it comes to standing on my feet. It makes me more secure. It makes me happier. And if there is anyone who is going to join and who is also like this, I would be more than happy to be with that person. But I'm not taking any your other people's drama or their, like, I'm not meeting their expectations. So I just don't identify myself as like someone who came into this world just maybe to only to give a birth, or
Right.
just, to be together with someone for the sake of someone, or just you know I just don't want to live like, I just don't want to exist. I want to live this life. And if there's anyone who can, yeah, see this, or maybe we can get together like emotionally at the same time and also future like, but that would be nice. But if it's not happening, so it's not happening, and I'm totally fine with that.
No, and that's absolutely understandable, and
It's
it makes
getting
also
dark
it
here.
is getting dark. And
I should turn the light
oh
on.
yeah, if you want to go right ahead. It's
Just a minute.
oh, of course.
Uh-huh. Just a
Has it stopped working? Okay. Oh, my. I just let me see now if it's better. Oh, I
Mm,
cannot see myself now.
nope.
Okay, then what happened?
It might have something might have logged out on accident.
Oh, I think it just went far. Oh, no. Wait a minute. Let me just check this one. Okay.
It could have been your. It could be your. What's it called? Your camera.
Now my camera is on. It's
Hmm.
on. Yeah,
Hmm.
but I cannot. Yeah. Well, I'm sitting in front of the camera and it's on.
Maybe it could be the recording part of it. I'm gonna check. If anything, I can drop you real quick and then just try to get you back up. Oh, hold on.
Okay.
Okay, so it's your camera is like working because when I move the camera, I can see your face.
Can
Um,
you? I cannot see
yep.
myself.
But for some reason, yeah, I cannot see. All right, let's see. I bounce that off. Oh, backstage. Okay. Um,
No. Oh, wait a
no.
minute. Let me see this. No. Uh,
Mm,
is it because of my main camera? No.
yeah, maybe.
Actually, it's all on. So
Maybe what I'll
I
do
think
is yeah, because it says your camera's not on. Change
no,
guest
it is
input
on. Let me
remotely.
see.
What I can do is I'll drop you for a second and then I'll bring you right back.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So then we there. And what we're gonna do is I forgive everyone for the real quick. I don't know what happened. All right. Give another shot. Let's try to give another shot at this one. I don't know what happened. We have no clue. Okay, so it's still going, which is good. It's still going, which is just good, just fine. You guys, hey, I really love my helmet. Like that's so dope. All right, let's see. Ooh, it might have been something with maybe it was something with their. Let's see. Oh, nothing's ever perfect, isn't it? Anyways, for those who are also here, I see that Scorpio's here. Okay, there we go. There we got it back.
Yeah,
So
I'm back.
awesome.
I had to drop out and then I had to join.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but it happens every once in a while. But like I mentioned though is it's being your own person. I think at the end of the day is more important. Um, being who you are, knowing who you are, having the emotional intelligence to accept yourself, your flaws, all that is muchly more important. Um, and so I feel like that's one of the ways that if we, I mean, obviously, you being, you teaching, especially younger groups of people, they have to, I'm sure they see that, that's why you have so many girls in your classes, though, it's got to be, because they have to be able to see that at some point. It might not hit them right away, 'cause I'm not gonna lie, school didn't hit me right away, but, like, eventually they're going to see it, and they're going to recognize all of it. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying to bring that awareness to them at the same time. For I have last year bachelor degree students right now, like they are doing their fourth year right now, and they are like, okay, teacher, help me out to get to the master's degree. I have to do my master's. I'm like, why do you need to do your master's degree? Like, take a gap year and then go and maybe work a little bit, be in the industry and see if this is a right path for you. Because we don't know if you're gonna like teaching or not. Because mostly they're like, oh, I don't want to be the teacher, but I want to do my master's degree. And sometimes they just go off the road and they do like MBA, or sometimes they do economics right after doing their education. And I'm like, okay, do you think that's what you want? They're like, okay, I cannot just sit 1 year and do nothing. I don't have a boyfriend. So if I don't have a boyfriend, if I'm not getting married, what should I do? I'm like, just to live, maybe? I usually say, maybe you should live. Maybe you should just try out different activities. Maybe you should
mhm.
go and dance. Maybe you should go to do ballet. I don't know. Do something. And they're like, no, teacher, my mom is also telling me that I should do my master's right after the bachelor's degree. I was like, I didn't even enter the university until I was 20. I was like, you know what? I am working right after I came from the US. I was like, okay, I want to teach English. And at the age of 16, I started teaching English. And at the age of 20, I was like, okay, I think I can do the university. Without any preparations, I went and took an exam and I was like, oh, I'm going to study Russian studies. And I did that. And at the age of 28, I just did my master's degree, joint degree with George Washington University and our university. So that was education policy, because education was something I was really connected to. But for example, I'm 33 right now, but right now I feel like, okay, maybe I should change the career.
Mm.
And that is, it seems like a very big step at the same time. Also, it's very scary. It's like a very risky thing to do. However, I feel like I'm stuck in this stagnant energy for a long
Ah,
time. But it just hits you. Yeah.
absolutely. And it is like I think and I think something that's really interesting that you mentioned that is because, like, for the younger kids who are coming in, they're like, I have to do the bachelor's, right? Then after that, I have to do the master's, and then as soon as they get done, they're kind of like, okay, well, that was a big chunk of like, now what do I do? Because they don't have that life experience of going and being like, I want to try this, I want to try this. A lot of times for me personally, unless you're hell bent on going to a certain degree or career right away, I think it's not a bad thing to take a year off and figure out what you actually want to do, because I believe I don't have stats up for it, but I believe there's quite a few. There's a lot of people that end up changing their careers like midway through.
That
You
is
know,
totally right. Yeah.
and so it's like, yeah, take a bit of time to separate yourself away and go, learn how to, I don't know, it can be anything. Go and you spend some time working, you know, go get a job, make some money. Um, like I mean, I guess Jack said it best. Spend so much of your life in academia that you didn't life experience life, which is where you would apply what you learned in school, anyways. I mean, that's true. Like if you, I've seen so many people who end up going back for multiple. I have a friend of mine that has like 4 degrees, and he's going for like two more. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, use those degrees. You have the all the stuff. Go and do it. But I think part of it is that stuck of like, I don't know what to do after.
Yeah, that is totally right. That is it. It is for I did teaching for most of my life, and then I was like, okay, now I can see the system's drawbacks, which make kids. Or in our country, for example, I really don't like the education system, despite the fact that they are trying to make these incremental changes. For example, I want to bring social emotional learning into our education system because that's what we lack. And when at the age of 28, when this program opened, I was like, okay, now I have been in the field for many years and I can see the drawbacks and disadvantages, what they are lacking. So I should do my master's in education policy and try to maybe have some impact on the policy. So that's why I did it at the age of 28 because I could understand the industry I am in. I was like, okay, this is how it works. But when you are freshly graduate from your bachelor's degree and you are like jumping into doing your master's degree, you have no background, like knowledge, or you don't have that baggage or anything you call, I don't know how to say that. So just understanding those intricate moments of the society or the industry you are going to work in, you have no idea what's happening there. And masters is usually something you don't learn. It's more complicated. It's not like bachelor's degree. You get this like practical things or more theory based stuff. It's more, yeah, it's not actually it's usually theory based. It's not that much practical.
Okay.
But in masters you basically do a lot of like those things, so you have to. And then I also have a friend who is doing his PhD at the age of 23.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
so he's, yeah, that is crazy. So but yet again I was like, okay, right now I feel ready like doing my PhD right now. But it was like it's been 2 years since I finished my masters, and like, okay, I think now I can do my PhD in another country, maybe like do some research, give myself to research. That's what I have always wanted to do, but before that I should build something else. So I'm really happy I can do that reflection, but I wish I could do it when I was 20 or maybe when I was a teen.
Mm.
But unfortunately, I couldn't because I didn't have the tools. Maybe I didn't experience the world. Or maybe like I wish I had an adult in my life who could just tell me not to rush, not to take everything so seriously, not to take life so seriously, and not to like work until I just got like many burnouts and putting too much pressure on myself. I wish I had someone. So I'm trying to be that person for these kids, for these people. There are girls and boys at the group. So boys are also, that's also a totally different group. And they do also have a lot of pressure from the society. It's not only girls, but boys, they have their own, like boys
Hmm.
can, oh, you are a boy, don't cry. Oh my God, you are too emotional to be a boy. You are too emotional to be a
Mm.
man. Yeah, these kind of stuff. So I totally understand them. So they do have their own struggles going through the society, and girls have their own struggles. I wish they can come. Only way I see the way out, it's like being socially and emotionally intelligent. That's
Yep.
it. Like
Well, and I think
that
another
is the
part of
only
that,
way.
because that happens so much, especially where I see that where don't cry, don't show emotion, don't really talk about your if you don't talk about your emotion with other women because they'll just use it against you. And in reality, a lot of this stuff sounds like I tried saying I'm like you're basically the same as a man. Hearing men say it is basically the same way of saying it's the same where I hear like a woman being like, "Girl, get rid of him, do blah blah blah. You're all better off alone, anyways, and all that." And I'm like, you guys are two sides of the same coin. I think one of the best ways for people to understand is to realize that the women's issues, especially, can be solved a lot better by not using them as a competition of who has it worse. Um, because at the end of the day, it
True.
doesn't matter. I always say if it sounds so weird, but if I got shot in the leg or stabbed in the arm, it doesn't matter. They both hurt. So like, it's
100%.
and so it's crazy because I hear that a lot from I hear that a lot when talking with guys about don't cry, don't show emotion, only hustle. Women only care about certain things. When in reality, it's just not true, and it's told by people who are just hurt people who don't who spend most of their life hurting others indirectly. And unfortunately, that kind of mindset infects younger generation of people. And I'm like, when I used to always say like I don't take relationship advice from people who typically are single. I don't take typical relationship advice from people who have been in relationship after relationship after relationship after relationship. Why would you take advice from someone who's shown that it can't work? You know, I want to learn about.
And you don't also uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's like you would never take like advice on a recipe from a person who constantly burns their food. Like and it gets me sad because these younger kids then they come to the same kind of pressure and it just instills the same thing and then the generation continues.
That is totally right. So I don't know if you've heard about the term Sigma. I think that is very popular thing right now. Sigma. Yeah,
Yep,
that is
yep.
like
The alpha, beta, sigma.
all yeah. Yeah. So this generation alpha, they call themselves Sigma right now. And I have like students who are 13, 14, my brother's age. And I was like, and my brother is like, he last year he was really violent. He turned out to be a very violent kid. From a very cute kid, he turned out to be a very violent kid. And I was like, okay, something is going on here. Something has an influence. And then when you check his social media, it's like, yeah, he started doing like this sports thing, crazy sports thing, like he just does sports all the time. He just counts his calories. He just eats this, eat that, protein, this. And I was like, okay, where is this rooting from? Where is this coming from? How has he changed so much in 1 month? And that was all about this Sigma mindset, like
Hmm.
just do work, don't cry, don't show emotion, don't be kind, don't have empathy, everything, like that one thing just impacted whole generation.
And that's the thing is like that and that kind of mindset um leads to things like people getting killed, a suicide. It all
Yeah,
leads
yeah.
to it, and you're absolutely correct that you listen to these influencers and they're you gotta make sure that if you're not making six figures, then you're basically worthless. Okay, well most people don't make six figures right off the bat. So what you're doing is you're calling all these people worthless, when in reality, if you start looking at their stuff, they actually don't believe what they say. Um, like,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. There are a lot of them. That's true.
like, oh, that was the point you made before. Fix what needs to be fixing in ways of priority of importance. Well, it's true, but I would also say that, like, um, I would also say that it's not one or the other. They both need to be fixed. And you're probably right on it too. Maybe I'm just misrepresenting what you're saying. But I feel like when I see those people, as soon as you start saying that I'm an alpha, I'm not gonna lie to you. I, I don't listen. I stopped listening. Like I find it so weird. Um, because it's such a it's a gross, weird mindset that when you start digging into the actual saying of what an alpha is, it's kind of like when they're like, I'm a lion. Okay, I'm strong. I'm like a lion. I'm like, you do realize that the women, like female lions, are the ones who do a lot of the hunting and stuff. The male lions are there maybe to help protect, but that's the female lions. But that's usually about it. They don't do as much as you think. But a lot of them don't
Yeah.
realize that, and so they in their minds they feel like they're they're being this big masculine dude, because masculine men, they go and they eat, they eat whatever, they do whatever, they don't let no one talk back to them. And I'm not gonna lie, the same dudes they probably watched, I've seen at least one other time before where they got into a, okay, come on out here and let's fight kind of thing. And guess what that same guy did? He hid in a corner. Like there was a podcast that they were watching called Fresh and Fit, and at one point I used to watch it, and then I stopped watching it because I realized they're just a bunch of they're two fucking losers. But there was a moment where a dude, because they had their podcast, I believe, in Miami. It's like a apartment complex or something that they have in Miami, and they they had a dude show up. Like it was like unannounced, like, yo, come on out here if you want to talk. You want to start talking, fight. And the two hosts who were kind of running their mouth before backed up real quick
Wait, is that
because of
Andrew Tate guy?
he's one of the people who I think he's done stuff with Andrew Tate, or they have done stuff with Andrew Tate. And I hate that guy. I honestly I think he's Andrew Tate is legitimately toxic for people to be around. I've been in lives before where I've had people try to say that, like, well, what he really cares about is improving men, and I was like, if he was cared about improving men, he'd actually be doing stuff to help better fit men. Um, and so I remember them being like, well, he was, he gives advice on how to be a better man, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna lie to you, like that doesn't mean anything. I was like, if Hitler gave you advice on don't jump off a bridge, does that still make him a good person? No. Like, I was like,
Oh my! And you know what? So why I think I saw this Andrew Tate guy here on this podcast, and there is also one more podcast just like this Fresh and Fit one. So they just try to burn women like because of their
mhm,
body count and stuff like this. So that is that okay. So that is really toxic thing that
yep.
happening on that show. But you know what? Right now, I've seen a lot of teenage boys who actually do admire Andrew Tate. Right now, Gen Alpha, who are 13, 14, they're like, oh, for I was talking to my one of my students. I was like consulting, so we had like this consulting kind of thing, and I was like, okay, what is the reason that you are failing academically? So what is happening? Are there any like problems in your life? And he was like, I just don't see the point. He doesn't see the point in studying because he was like, you know what? There's a guy, Andrew Tate. He said that you can do this, you can do that, something like. I was like, okay, so are you going to take advice from like Andrew Tate guy? But he was like brainwashed by that guy. So whatever they are consuming, these kids and these teenagers, whatever they are consuming, whatever they see on social media, at one point in their lives, they do believe, legitimately believe that this is the only way
Yep.
out.
And the thing is that
Yeah.
there's a big it's not the word I'm looking for. It's not a masculinity crisis, but it's a redefinition of what masculinity means. And beforehand, people like Andrew Tate is the type to be like, all you got to do is, to put it the nicest way possible, is to walk around, make a bunch of money, bang as many women as possible, and then die. Like that's pretty much all it is. But then when you tell a boy like that, I'm like, so you think that he's a legitimate dude, and if they're like, oh, okay, cool, you do realize that he was involved in sex trafficking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He was involved in
They have
trafficking.
no idea what
Yeah.
that is. They have
No,
no
and
idea
so
what
and
that
then
is.
you start to explain what that is, and when you start to break it down and explain it and understand the gravity of how bad that is, it's going to hit them, because everything that they're saying, that they believe is because they want to hold on to is still a mindset that doesn't no longer exist. You know, When you see that, people similar to Andrew Tate, people who are similar to people like the Fresh and Fit boys, um, they care about superficial stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Their
yeah.
stuff is very
Yeah, they do
superficial.
super.
And everything, and because those boys will only see superficial, so what's going to happen is that they're going to go out into the real world and realize that that's not how it is. And so they have two choices, which is they double down on their beliefs or they choose to accept the reality. And then they double down on their beliefs, saying that no, it's the fault of if women weren't doing so well, like but they're also not doing anything to benefit themselves. And so it's unfortunately that those boys are struggling with that because the truth of the matter is that your life is your life and what you do with it is fine. If you are a type of dude who wants to go and I know dudes who will they go and they'll paint their nails or something like that because they like it, and then guess what? As soon as something comes up, they stand 10 toes down right off the bat, and they ain't messing around, you know, um, and so this whole notion of people like Tate and the infection that Tate has. Tate is an outdated, antiquated, and honestly, in a way, to me, um, fantasy version of what it means to be a man. The whole smoking cigars after whatever and sitting there with sunglasses in a well lit room, which just you don't have glaucoma, so it makes you look dumb. Um, you know, um, like the fact that I was a kickboxer and all this other kind of shit too. And I'm like, yo,
And
last time I checked,
they also think like all women want them, and I'm like, no way. No, and they also think like this. But you know what I'm really happy about right now? So because I do teach this organizational behavior OB for my bachelor's.
I love cigars. Leave my, I messed that one. That was my fault. Sorry, Score.
Yeah, so loving cigars is also totally fine. So you can love whatever you want to. We usually say, I always say, you can love whatever you want to, unless when it harms you, I feel bad for you when something harms you. But when it harms the society and the whole generation, please don't do it because I'm going to, like, I usually fight for the younger generation. So what I love about OB right now, I do teach organizational behavior at the university. So in Azerbaijan, at least, it's like the hierarchy kind of thing. So people are really really used to authoritarian type of leadership. Like authoritarian type of leadership. It's like, okay, you have the boss and you have to be afraid of your boss or something. So it's all about this. But now I teach organizational behavior, and organizational behavior right now, it's all about like having more distributed leadership and also emotional intelligence in the workplace, and trying to understand yourself, if you fit the job or if you fit the organization, if you fit the organizational culture. For some kids, I do see those eyes popping out. They're like, is that real? Is there an organization like this that can be, distributed leadership can be the thing? Isn't there like this alpha guy, like alpha male somewhere there just trying to dictate you, doing this, doing that, doing this? And I'm like, no. Where do you live? Like right now in the world, there are so many organizations, and maybe you will create an organization which you can take from different motivation series, or different. You can use a different series and create a different culture in your organization. And right now, we do have very big companies actually trying to train their, let's say, employees this emotional intelligence, social emotional intelligence, like empathy, understanding each other, trying to create more inclusive, let's say, cultures in the organizations. For some of my kids, even they're not my kids, my students, I usually call them my kids. So for some of my students, they are like 20, 21, 22, and they do not see the workplace without having this alpha guy somewhere there and just like threatening them, and like being this like Andrew Tate of guy who has like a lot of power in his hand and making them work. And I'm usually like, oh my god, that's
And
such
it's funny
a
is
screwed.
that's not how it works for companies. I was like, if you want to say that, like, okay, you have, let's say you look at like a company like Microsoft. right? Well, but Bill Gates made Xbox. No, he didn't. He didn't make Xbox. His company, sure, but his company has a board of people, and they all lead their own pack, which also has a board of people, which all lead their pack, which has a board of people, which leads their, and so it's not just one guy who's just, oh, he just ruling this industry and stuff. And and as soon as, yeah, once you start learning that, it does kind of like, oh, maybe my thought process was wrong, you know, and it's hard to get them. Of course, it's kind of hard to get them to see that because the dream is to be to sit there in your the penthouse with the got the little drink in your hand and whatever. But that's just not an existing lifestyle. Like for
But
most people, it's not.
I don't know if that's like a thing I should go into right now, but I don't know if you have experienced it, but I have experienced spiritual awakening when it in 2020, once COVID hit. So before COVID hit, I was going through a very rough patch because my mom actually makes this joke around everyone because I would go to work like before COVID hit and I would cry every day in the morning like, okay, I just want this world to stop. I just want this world to stop because I cannot take it anymore. And then like in a week, they said like, okay, we were at school and they were like, okay, go home. There's some kind of thing, so maybe you will be staying at home. And I was like, okay, I'm going home. And then like everything was closed for a year, and my mom always blamed me. She was like, you were the one who called for this COVID thing because you would cry so much and ask God like, do this, do that. So once this I really did go through a very rough, let's say, period once before COVID hit, and when COVID hit, I became really calm. Like I was so calm. I was like living my life without having like without having anything, just one cup of coffee, and I would sit down, I would just watch something on my computer. I was feeling so happy because world stopped, and I wasn't feeling like being late anywhere because everyone was at home. And then that time I realized, okay, it's not about me, it's not like something wrong with me, it is all about this econo- eco- no- economic pressure at the same time, and also society's pressure of when someone is doing something, you should also do it. When someone, I'm going back to the like the back to our conversation when we started, because when we started, like this economic or societal pressure, like, okay, so you earn this, earn more, and do this and get better all the time. So that's what I felt. And I believe that's when a lot of people also went through a spiritual awakening. That was the time a lot of people stopped and they started self-reflecting. And that was a time when people went like off grid. A lot of people just moved to suburban areas, so, or like rural areas, and they started their own YouTube channels, and they were like, okay, this is, I guess, the lifestyle I want. And that brought me a lot of peace. Actually, I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to be the part of that crazy, that, okay, let me go to Dubai or Abu Dhabi every day, every like week, and then have this, just like you said, I don't want to use the word cigar, but so so maybe like yeah, have my cocktails and just like doing everything whatever other people are doing. So that was a time I realized that, yeah, so we all can be different, and I don't want to do whatever other people are doing. And there are certain kind of people that I shouldn't be involved with because those are not my people. But that was like a very big part of the self-reflection, and that's where I found the values, my own values, not like the values society gave me, like, okay, just do this and be this, and like have this and have that person in your life, get this kind of husband or get this kind of job and earn this kind of money, or nothing. So that's when I realized that was like the most, I was the happiest that time. But now it all started coming again because COVID, like all those restrictions are done, so nobody is everyone is back. and everyone again is trying to, yeah, hustle. And hustling isn't a bad thing. I'm not calling it, hustle culture is a bad thing. Yeah, if you are trying to do something, if you are trying to be better for yourself every day, it's not a bad thing. But if you are trying to show off or trying to prove someone something, and not for yourself, but proving someone something, that you are worth it. If you did this, you for example, this is like, okay, if you have a car, so you are a worthier person, you are more worthy. If you have a house, you are more worthy. So I don't want to have those price tags on me. So that is the thing right now. I think I'm getting back to it. So I hope it's going to stop and I will not fall into that trap one more time. Yeah, that is the thing. I think COVID had a very big influence on my life. Not only mine, I guess it had a big influence on a lot of people's life at the same time. But
I
I
agree.
wish,
The day the earth stood still is an awakening and a realization of existence, saying we need to stop and check ourselves and try to make better judgments.
yeah,
That's very true.
that was a, that was a day. Probably, I don't want to hurt other people's feelings. I know that there are a lot of people struggle through COVID. I also went through COVID twice, and my mom also, she also caught COVID. Yeah, it wasn't a great experience physically, but spiritually, I would call that a very nice experience for a lot of people. At least they stopped. Some of them had the time to self reflect. And I wish we could do it. So that's why, like, mornings are my most creative parts. I love waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning when nobody is awake, no one. So there are no cars and no one is talking. No one. I would probably like watch Svalbard. I don't know if you know that place. It's in Norway. So it's like the coldest place in the world, only with few houses. I would put the video on and they would be like the snow, and then people are just walking quietly. I would have my coffee and just think and just, I don't know, I just feel the happiest in the morning. I guess when it's 5 o'clock when nobody is talking.
That's understandable, and that's the thing is like when it came to COVID because I was working as a caregiver during that time, so I worked through call COVID. You know, I don't want to say that I liked it. Obviously, it was really bad because of just the way that people were dealing with seniors and all that. But
Yeah.
it was sad. You know what I mean? It was sad, but at the same time, it was in a way of kind of peaceful. I feel like people were better because they didn't have that restriction sitting upon them as much. And, it made me realize that the world, at least to me, with all the way that we have cultivated this world of constantly running and doing this and doing that and living, never taking a step to breathe. And even before that, once I stepped back for a moment and realized, what do I want to do? Everything slows down. Everything slows down.
Yeah.
It's not a, like I said, doing everything is on your time, not anybody else's. And once you learn that, I think the world, it's your world just feels different. You know, it's like there's certain phrases, like I mentioned before. I said I don't care. Learning to say no is one huge. Once you feel like you can learn to say no to
Yeah.
things, you take that power back. And in a world where
Oh,
most
that's a
people feel
boundary.
powerless, they grasp on the little bit that they can. Like for example, for my job, like, hey, can you want to work this day? No, I don't. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like it's much, but it's a good feeling to know that I can go and say no.
Yeah, it's a
I
boundary. So it's all about setting boundaries. That's what we teach at the same time when we teach like social emotional learning. It's
oh,
okay to say no.
so many
If you
people
don't
don't have
feel
boundaries.
like it.
So many people don't have boundaries. It's amazing to me. Like, the same people, they'll put a line in the sand, and then they just let whoever it is cross all over it. You know.
I think I don't know if I've told you about this or not. So I did struggle with social media anxiety and WhatsApp anxiety, and I do still. So that's why I was like, maybe someone would text me because I do have, as I work in two jobs, three jobs actually. As I work in three jobs, I have like a lot of people texting me every day, like asking for homework or doing this, doing that assignment, or like giving them consultation about, like going abroad, studying abroad. And I was feeling really overwhelmed. Sometimes there are phases my mental health is really weak, and I know that. So if I put too much pressure, I start crying, I start like okay, I feel really overwhelmed. So that's why I wouldn't answer the messages very often. I was like, okay, so I would just totally ignore them because I was in my like this bad phase, let's say. And a lot of people in my life, they were like, okay, you are too ignorant and you are too, yeah, they would call me like, you know what, you don't value anyone, so you don't deserve these people in your life. And I was like, you have no idea what I am going through. So I just
Ooh.
started texting them one by one. And I was like, okay, you know what, I really can't take it because I feel so bad, you don't even understand it. Because when I see like 100 something messages in the morning in the WhatsApp, and I still have to teach, and I still have to interact with 300 students every day, you cannot imagine how much energy I have to give. I have to give like all my energy, and do you think I get all of it back from the students? No, because most of them don't care, they don't care. I am the one who's just constantly trying and just teaching. I am one, but there are like hundreds of them. So, do you think you would have power or energy when you come home and then answer like 100 and something messages in one day? So I just told them like, you know what? Maybe I can get back to you in 3 days, in 4 days, but not right away. That's not physically possible.
Hmm.
Let's just be put aside like mentally, but physically also it's not possible because there are days I can go without coffee or maybe something to eat. Just a minute. Oh, I just left it. Can you hear me?
Yep,
I
I
think
can
my
hear you.
headphone just rang. Yeah.
Oh, you're okay.
So, can you hear me now?
Yep, I can still hear you.
Ah, okay. Okay, okay. So that's like I do go without food, like maybe probably because I teach, I go without food for 12 hours because I don't have like breaks during my teaching hours. So
Mm.
that was the time when I had to set the boundaries. But again, there were people who could understand. There were people who were like, oh my god, it just takes like 5 minutes. It just takes like 1 minute to answer the call, and we are calling you like 500 times and you are not picking up the phone. I'm like, I'm at the lesson. What do you expect from me? Like, just leave my lecture and just go outside and talk to you? What do you
Exactly. Yeah, that
expect?
doesn't make any sense because it's like, well, and that's just that selfishness that they feel entitled to your time. You know, because obviously you're doing something. You're not being ignorant because you're doing something. I am exhausted. If I don't get you right away, I will get you eventually. If that's a problem, that's on you. That's not on me. And I
That
think
is right.
that comes from that. Well, as we mentioned before, it comes from that lack of empathy and lack of thinking of others. Because right now all they're thinking about is themselves, and that's not fair.
And also, yeah, and also they see the world from their perspective. That is the thing. Maybe they are like housewives who are in the house all the time. So maybe they can watch the movie in the morning. Kids are at school. Kids are at the kindergarten. Okay, she has nothing to do, and she thinks like, okay, maybe I do the same thing. And I'm like, okay, can you look at the world from my perspective at the same time? You have no. I don't share everything on social media, and I haven't given you my whole plan. So maybe you should ask me. But so there is no one who just calls me and asks me if I need help. No one. Everyone asks for help. So that's why I'm like, if you call me and ask me, okay, if I need help, I would be maybe a little bit happier. But you do not do it. I know that if I answer your call, I have to solve some kind of problem. That is what I am called for. So that
No,
is
exactly.
also the
Well, and that's
reality.
yeah, and in a way, it also makes you not feel as much as a person as just like a problem solver. You know, you're not calling to see how's my day going. You're calling to be like, this is I have this problem, and then after you solve it, then I'll check it out. And that's not fair to you either.
I don't think so. I just realized it. I just realized it. Okay, good one. I've taken this insight, and from now on, I'm just going to tell them, you know what? Did you ask me how I am? Like, did you
Yeah.
ask me how I am
And
feeling?
it just and the first thing it's like, what do you want? And it's like, oh, I just want to talk about what, you know. Well, can I call you? No, tell me what you want. There's sometimes where I've answered calls, and the first time it's just like, what do you want? It sounds really rude, but it's like if you don't want anything specific from me, and I'm busy, I'm not going to. Like that's why for me, I have my phone on silent most of the time. It's mostly on
Yeah,
vibrate, and
mine
sometimes
too.
that's on silent. So it's like, oh, if I didn't get to you, there's times where I don't get to people for at least an hour, 2 hours, sometimes the next day, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I saw your message, but I was tired.
Yeah,
Like
you
I'll get
cannot
to.
imagine. While we were talking, I have more than 50 WhatsApp messages. So it's been how many hours now? One
Uh,
hour
Not
and
even
yeah,
two
it's been two
hours.
hours.
Yeah,
Yeah,
about
it's
two
been, oh my
hours.
God, that's, I have
Yeah.
a lesson right after we talk.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably it. Well, we
Yeah.
can wrap it on up then because usually they go about 2 hours. So
No, okay,
they usually
perfect.
yeah.
Oh,
So
I
oh
was
my
so
god.
happy. I'm really happy to, yeah. I
Oh, I
was
am too.
really, first I was really nervous. I was like, okay, so what are we going to talk about? And I was also, I usually hesitate about talking, like the things I do have in my life. But with you, it just the time just flew away.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was already been 2 hours. I was on a live yesterday morning. It went for
Oh,
5 hours, and
wow.
I was just sitting there in front of my phone. I ended up hurting my back. Actually, my back was bad
Oh,
yesterday over it
oh
because I
my
think I did
God.
something like nerve damage to it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Usually they go by pretty quick. So they always feel like it.
Wow.
But I want to
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
yeah,
that went really.
yeah. You want to say any final thoughts though? So
Oh, that's okay. So let me tell you. That was so I had this. I was supposed to be on the podcast probably like last week. On other person's podcast, so that's from Azerbaijan. So we have also this podcast culture, like reviving. And I was like, I told that person, that's where I set my boundary. I was like, no, actually, I do have a friend. First, my first opening is going to be with my friend, and that would be you. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be first on his podcast and then on the other podcast, I guess. But I really had a great time because you are very open-minded. So as you are very open-minded and you are also a very emotionally intelligent person, I usually, as an extroverted introvert, I usually get like a little bit like tired, or maybe sometimes I feel a bit limited, let's say. But not here. I felt really happy, and I think we didn't only touch like one topic, so there were like millions of topics we talked about. And I hope when people listen to it, it's not going to be too, like hustly, like they are jumping. She's jumping from one
oh
topic to
no,
another topic.
there won't be. And like I can send it to you too if you want. So if you want it the thing as well, so I can send it to you too. I just
Yeah,
gotta get it
that would be
downloaded.
nice.
Awesome. Yeah, I can do
Oh,
that.
okay. No, I think I already saw when I was out. I think I already saw that. No.
Okay. Yeah, probably. So, but yeah, it always depends. Like I have, it's like it goes up on YouTube and all that stuff because that's where it is right now, and then I re-download it, kind of mix some stuff up, and then I put it back on YouTube. Um,
Oh.
but it's always fun. So, but
It is. It is. So I'm starting my own podcast, and you will be the first guest.
okay, just let me know when, and
Yeah,
I will
yeah, I
listen.
should. I don't know how to use this platform though.
Oh,
Is it like,
it's not hard. I can teach you how to do it too. It's honestly
oh, that
super
would be
easy.
nice.
Oh yeah, no,
That would
absolutely.
be so cool. I would just start doing my own. I do have YouTube channel. I just upload all my shorts on it. Yeah, I
What
make like small shorts,
what is that? Like,
only shorts.
so people can find that.
Oh, I don't have, it's Farida Orujova, but I don't think I have like great content. I just have like 30 Seconds to Mars came to Azerbaijan this year. I have some shorts from there. Yeah,
30
Jared
seconds to
Leto and
Mars,
babe.
kids.
I love Jared Leto. He's my teenage crush.
That is that's so I didn't know that they're still going, because
Yeah, they
he's
do.
like
They had
what?
like world tour.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah, yeah.
insane. Actually, that makes me really happy now. That's really cool. I
And then I have some videos from New York, and then some
mm,
of my days from my house. Yeah, I have like all these shorts. I like it, but it's basically like documenting my life. I basically document my life, but yeah, I will put probably like videos here, maybe podcasting.
definitely, I'll definitely be checking them out. Send me the link to it. And so to wrap it all up, you guys know where to find me up on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, obviously, because that's where we're at. Afrofish OG, also Spotify as well. This is where this will the will also go up on Spotify. And yeah, that's mainly it. So as always, you guys know how I finished it off. I'm Taylor from Afrofish OG, and I will catch you all in the next one. Alrighty. And so with all that, it is all finished. I'm just getting the last bit done,